And it's incredibly rewarding to be able to see the progress, the improvement, and how they better themselves when we, put a little bit of our.
I see that smile as you're saying it. Yeah, that's awesome. That's it's almost it's like you win when you see someone blossom. They come in one way and they leave another. Mm-hmm. It's like you know why you did it. You know why you got into the profession.
I take so much pride in what I do. My job is my life.
You're alive. You're breathing. There's someone who's not breathing right now that wish he had that shot. And when I get around people, I tell them, I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? Your life is this. Your life, listen, homeboy, my life ain't what you think it is. And I've had my struggles, man. And I still have my struggles, but I try to look positive at everything. I always say there's a way out.
They were treated differently from the kids who were able to pay attention. And the truth of the matter is, it's not their fault. It's not that they're bad kids. They're not trying to be malicious. They're not trying to get in trouble. But because of the nature of the diagnosis and the symptomatology that's related to it.
I'm Mike Cruz, and this is Mike Cruz Unadulterated. Today we have a special guest, Tatyana Goykhberg. I might have fumbled the name a little bit, but you can do it better?
That's okay.
Okay. She's the owner of South Shore Psychiatry. Tatyana, tell us, your medical profession.
Yeah. Hi, Mike. Thank you for having me.
No, you're welcome. Pleasure to have you.
It's an honor to be here.
It's an honor for what you do, and we're going to get into that. You have a very unique job and profession, and we want to let people know what type of job you do and how we appreciate it.
Yeah. So I am a mental health psychiatric NP.
Okay.
I diagnose patients with any mental health disorders across lifespan, from children's age all the way up to geriatrics. And we diagnose and we prescribe medications along with psychotherapy.
Okay. And now I see we have a lot of stuff up there. So this is everything.
Yeah.
What you guys do. Wow.
Yeah.
So you have ADHD, PTSD, OCD, anxiety, eating disorder. Is that BPD?
Right.
What is that?
Stands for borderline personality disorder.
Mood bipolar disorder, sleep disorder, MDD, substance abuse, alcohol abuse. All right, let's jump into it.
Let's do it.
So, question for you now. Let's get into ADHD because it's there. Let's hear from a professional. What is ADHD?
So attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which are the 4 letters that it stands for, the acronym. It's a mental health disorder that's associated with difficulty with focus and concentration.
Okay.
Distractibility, procrastination, making careless mistakes. These are some of the symptoms that the diagnosis entails. And what we do is we identify whether the patient meets the criteria for the diagnosis, and then we will dive into treatment.
So now question, are people born with ADHD or they develop it? Like these stuff?
It's something that a patient is born with. Yeah. However, the symptoms sometimes show up different times of their life.
In their life,
sometimes the children will show it at an age of 5 and above, for example. And then we have adults coming in who will show symptoms later on in life. Yeah. And we call that adult onset attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
It's funny. When I was a kid, so if you were some sort of special, when I was a kid, they used a word that I don't like to use, but I'm going to use it right now. They labeled you as like a retard, basically. Mm-hmm. And that's a word that I hate hearing because now there's so many different forms of stuff like, like the ADHD, the PTSD, OCD. And I felt when I was younger, so many kids were labeled probably wrong because I don't think that we really knew what was going on, where kids went to special classes and they went special rooms and special buses. And now I know some of these kids as I got older, and some of these guys are like professionals now. They were just like misdiagnosed. I think we were so far behind the ball back then.
Yep.
I think we advanced so far. And that's why I'm so intrigued by this. Like all this stuff, like when I met you, I was like, because I deal with a lot of mental health issues with people in my family. And I have friends who would like that. And they have kids like that also. So I felt like if we had you on here, we can get a better entail of what it is and what people go through on a daily basis.
Absolutely. You bring up a very interesting point. I talk about it with parents all the time. Back in the day, kids who struggled with attention hyperactivity deficit disorder were labeled as bad kids.
Yeah.
They were put in the back of the classroom often. They were treated differently from the kids who were able to pay attention. And the truth of the matter is, it's not their fault. It's not that they're bad kids. They're not trying to be malicious. They're not trying to get in trouble. But because of the nature of the diagnosis and the symptomatology that's related to it, they couldn't help themselves. So because of the mental health stigma that goes way back, these parents were not educated, not well informed to be able to get the treatment that these children really needed in order to not be labeled bad kids. And there's a huge trickling down effect that happens when the kid is labeled by the teacher a bad kid.
Yeah.
They start struggling socially because they're isolated by their peers. So they struggle academically because they have trouble with focus and concentration, distractibility, hyperactivity, but they also are isolated by their peers. So psychologically, it affects them as well, where they start feeling bad about themselves, like they're not good enough, like they don't fit in, and they feel, like it's sad. And I always tell parents, if this is something that your child needs, you have to be mindful of the care and treatment we may potentially be depriving him if that's something that they truly need, and what it often entails as far as aftermath if you choose not to treat someone with these symptoms.
Yeah, you see like a child develop, and you'll see like a teacher, certain teachers have different, levels of what they can handle, what they can't handle. You'll see one kid do so poorly with one teacher, then you'll see this kid excel with someone totally different. And the kids there, it's just, I guess they just comprehend different with different people. Like it takes someone to bring it out of them, someone special. And a lot of times I've seen, and I've seen lately, I've seen teachers that would just basically, hey, kind of just push it to the side. But then I've seen a kid go from one aspect of being, labeled as such a bad kid that now is like an A+ student and excelling in basically everything they're doing.
If you put the right resources for a child who struggles with this diagnosis, these children truly, truly blossom. And I've seen this, and you hit it right on the nail when you say it has to be the right match as far as the type of teacher. And listen, not everybody has the ability to manage, kids who have this diagnosis. Some teachers are well trained in this particular field where they are really good at managing and knowing how to deal with kids who have this diagnosis, and some teachers are not. And then personality comes into play as well. There's some people who are very compassionate. We have teachers that are very compassionate and, really do what they do with so much love. Yeah. And then there are some people who do it because they need to bring a paycheck. We and this goes across the board with every single profession. Yeah. Some people are truly passionate about what they do, and then there's some people who are, not so passionate. Yeah. So when you have somebody who's passionate, who really wants to help a child, who's in need, who's in trouble, then you'll see these children, and kids they're amazing in a way. They pick up about how you are towards them. Yeah. And if they see that you truly genuinely want to help them, they will want to do well. They want to strive. So
I agree. And what's crazy too is that some of these kids that were labeled, they were labeled a certain way when they were younger. And like you said, as they developed when they got older, they felt they weren't good enough. And they fell into depression as an adult. And then like crimes start getting committed. My theory is, tell me if I'm wrong, that if this is handled when they're younger, that crime that was committed as they got older probably would never have happened.
You are spot on. That's, one of my pet peeves when I speak to parents when they're reluctant to provide treatment or agree to treatment for their children. And what I talk about often is these kids, if they are not given the appropriate tools to be able to manage this diagnosis, they start self-medicating. Mm-hmm. When they start self-medicating, they start using illicit substances, such as marijuana, vaping, and then all the other things that come along after, because we know marijuana is usually the gateway.
Yeah.
So they self-medicate themselves, and when they're under the influence, they often make major decisions that can potentially be life-threatening and life-changing. So, and eventually they do, they are psychologically impaired, and they steal, and they get arrested for larceny, and things of such nature. So you're definitely spot on when you...
Now, question. So now a child's development, their brain, right? Mm-hmm. So say a kid starts, they're smoking, whatever, marijuana, and they start at 12 years old. Mm-hmm. How is that affecting their brain at 12 until now, then maybe start developing to an adult?
So there is some clinical studies that have shown, even though, one of the things I always tell people is psychiatry is even though we know a lot about it at this point, we're still in very premature stages of understanding it fully.
Okay.
But we do know that brain development goes up until early 20s. Yeah. So when you're talking about exposing a young brain that it is in the midst of development still to illicit substances, it could certainly have an effect on someone, permanent effect. So, but we have yet so much to learn about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's get into something about development. So talk about development with the children. Now,
one second, Mike. Tatyana, could you pull the mic closer to your face?
Okay.
Yeah. Good. So now let's talk about something else now with pandemic. The difference in people, children, post, pre-pandemic. So you've had patients before the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Now you have them after the pandemic. I think we had a discussion before about these kids lost their social skills by not socializing with other people. Mm-hmm. And that's a big part of their development growing up, is to have social skills, be able to interact with people. I see now that even when I deal with businesses sometimes, I can't get no one on the phone. They want to text me. I said, hey, dude, can you call me? Oh, no, I do business this way. I said, well, I don't. I want to talk to somebody. I want to feel that energy. Like I want to be able to gauge someone when I speak with them. Or even like if I have a meeting, the Zoom is cool, but if I'm close, I'm not Zooming. I got to talk to you. Like I want to know what's going on. And have you seen the big difference with this?
Yeah. Well, first of all, one of the things we always talk about is what social media has done to our children, and what we have yet to see when these children become adults and how it has affected them socially. Back in the day, what did we do? We went outside and we played with each other.
Yeah.
Right? We were creative in terms of activities that we were doing together as children. Now, all the communication is via devices, whether it's MacBook, whether it's a phone or some type of a tablet. A lot of communication is done via gaming. These kids a lot of them are addicted to gaming. As far as the pandemic goes, so first of all, we had a huge influx in patients' senses as far as people going out there and seeking mental health help after the pandemic and during the pandemic. And it was for multiple reasons. There was a huge mental health awareness going on, but also, like you mentioned, our children were suffering. They were suffering because they were isolated. And somebody who's of an teenage age, for example, or even younger, 10, 9, psychological development depends on socialization. And basically, what we have done during COVID to these kids is we pressed that pause button.
With the kids.
And it affected them significantly.
Yeah, it's like you said, like as we were kids, you would find something to do. You would throw a rock and it'd skip across a lake, or you play baseball. But now to pull a kid out of the house to get them off the phone, off a computer, off a game, it's like they fight you. It's mind blowing to me because I grew up in that generation where you stayed out until the lights went out, the street lights went on. There was no cell phone for your mom to call you. You knew when it got dark, you were going home. If not, your mother was yelling, "Get out!" You were embarrassed to the whole street. The development of kids now, like you said, like what's going to happen now when they go into the workforce now? You know, like it's almost they're being trained to be one way and not to really think for themselves. Almost like I'm hoping to God and I pray that a lot of these kids become entrepreneurs and don't take the jobs in Walmart, don't take the job at McDonald's. You know, think outside the box and be your own boss. Because there's nothing better than being your own boss. You know, you do what you want. You know, you have a strive to be something better. You know, I just feel like, to me, it felt like the whole pandemic thing, and they shut all that stuff down. It was almost like, hey, man, let's pump the brakes on these kids. And let's do a little control with them. And I don't know, like you said, you've seen it now with the kids coming back and they come into therapy and stuff. And even like some parents, like the parents pacify it a little bit instead of saying, hey, you know, get off your phone, get off your tablet, go outside, go do this, you know, and the parents play a big part of it. And I think, you know, as parents and as adults, it's our obligation. If our kids are doing that, then we need to make the effort to say, hey, you know, but if we're going to preach it, we got to show it. Like we can't be on our phone too. Hey, what's going on? Nothing. You know, we got to pull them out of the house. I listen. I'm guilty of it sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. But as I see these kids develop and I see what's going on, I think as adults and as parents that we need to push that issue with our kids. And I think the schools need to also, because I think the schools are they're kind of doing what they think is right for our kids and not what we think is right for our kids. You know, and one thing I keep saying is, if I drop my dog off, right, to like a place where the dogs, you know, when I go away, I can watch my dog on camera. I can log in. But why can't I watch what my kids are being taught in school? Is an issue I have. You know, like, you know, why can't I see what this teacher's telling my child? You know, what's life about, or what are you teaching my child? Why don't I have access to that? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, so tell me, let's get into something else now. Now, I saw up there, big thing, PTSD.
Yes.
Now, is that how does PTSD happen?
So somebody suffers a traumatic, life-threatening, or psychologically damaging event in their life.
Does it have to be like brain? Like it has to be physical, or it could be mental?
It is mental.
It is mental. It's not.
Mental.
It's not physical.
Yes, it could be psychological.
Oh wow.
It could be sexual related.
Okay.
It could be physical related.
Okay.
People have sometimes a misconception of what the criteria of the diagnosis is. People's threshold is different. Somebody could be bullied through school.
Yeah.
And have post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms after, you know, that event, or a period of time when they were made fun of, abused, you know, called different names.
Yeah.
Somebody could get into a car accident and have status post-traumatic types of symptoms where they're afraid of getting in the car. Somebody could have a fall and have a fear of falling now throughout the next 10 years until, you know, they do something about it and seek treatment that is necessary to mitigate those symptoms. Yeah.
So I'll tell you, so we talk about PTSD. The reason I brought that up, in 2018, I was in a bad motorcycle accident where I hit a car head on. Like, first time ever, like I was ever in a motorcycle accident like that. I got knocked out and I got up. And the first thing I thought I was dead. I woke up, I was like, holy shit, I'm dead. I rose up. And it was almost like I had an out-of-body experience. I'm like, I'm dead. There's no way I'm alive. I looked at the car's totaled. My bike's totaled. The lady's in the car, the airbag went off. She can't move. She's stuck in the car. And I'm sitting up looking, and I see everyone around looking. Fast forward, 2 months later, I went and bought another motorcycle. The first day on that motorcycle was, it was the most brutal thing I've ever did in my life. I was so scared. I was like this. My handlebars were like this. I got off that bike. I was like, I don't even know if I'm on a ride bike anymore. You know, so I definitely know what that PTSD is. And as I started riding a little bit more, it came back, like, you know, but still, I'm not the same guy. On my motorcycle, I am totally not the same guy anymore on the bike. But do you see that a lot in accidents and stuff like that?
Yes. So some people are able to overcome it by, you know, working with themselves. Yeah. And then some people will seek professional help.
Yeah.
So PTSD can be caused by many different types of events in someone's life.
So it's like you said, it's not only physical, it's mental. It can be mental abuse.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It could be, often we see PTSD with people who have been bullied in school.
Really?
We treat a lot of kids who have PTSD related symptoms that are bullied through social media, which is, something that you and I talked about before. There's a lot of bullying that goes on through social media with children today that they are exposed to that is very, very difficult sometimes to treat.
Yeah, it's one of the wildest things, like you said, social media, because it's no longer bullying face to face, like, hey, push in. Now it's just like,
right.
You just comment on someone's thing. Hey, you're ugly. Hey, you're this, you're that. And then, people you say live off, social media is their life. So whatever social media says is the truth. Hey, the guy sitting in front of them, oh my God, look what he's got. Dude, that's a rent-a-car. You know what I'm saying? Oh, look at his house. He's standing in front of someone's house.
Correct.
It's smoke and mirrors now. Like, you don't know what's real and what's fake anymore.
Correct.
It's like, even like catfishing. Like, one of my favorite shows on MTV was Catfish. Because
it was a good show.
It was a good show. Listen, God bless that creator, because it definitely had me intrigued because, like, people think they're having a relationship with someone online and it was totally someone else. And, you're like, they're showing up and like, this is the person you fell in love with. It's not physically what you thought they were. Mentally, it's that person because it was them talking to you, but physically that wasn't what they portrayed themselves to be. Yeah. And it's happening now in the world. It's happening with everything, and it's almost like you don't know what's real or fake, like I said anymore. Like, is that person being real right now? Is it being fake? Even like advertising. Oh my God, if it's too good to be true, I tell people, man, it's too good to be true, basically.
Well, I'll tell you, just on a personal note, what I didn't know until recently, that some of my patients actually have friends that they're not friends in real life. They're online friends.
Wow.
They've never met them. They may live in a different state. So they're going based on what the person is telling them. A lot of times, the parents get the phone call and say, by the way, your daughter, for the past 2 years, that friendship that she had going on was, a 60-year-old male who's now under the investigation of the authorities. So often children make relationships today and will carry on a relationship of 2-3 years with a person that they have never spoken to on the phone, never heard their voice, just online friend.
How wild is that?
Yes.
That is so wild.
It's very common today with today's.
That is so wild. And you know what? And again, it's us as parents. If we're not involved with the kids, if I hate to say it, if we're not in the iPads and on their things, hey, let me check what my child's doing. I'm not saying take away their privacy, but they're still children. Like my mom would watch what I was doing. Basically,
it's our responsibility as parents to monitor and see what our children are doing.
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah.
I understand that you want to be on good terms with your child, but I think it gets very hazy for children when they think they're your friends as opposed to looking at you as a parent. Yeah. And that's one of the things I always tell the parents of the children that I treat, because it's very intense when you treat children. That's why there's very few providers that are taking on children as their clients, because there's a lot of education when it comes to parenting. Yeah. There's a lot of education that you need to spend time with mom and dad.
Yeah.
Along separately with the patient themselves. So, you want to be a good parent, you want to be friendly, you want to be supportive to your child, but there's a fine line when, your child thinks, oh, mom is a friend, I can tell her anything, or I could do whatever, and she'll be supportive or understanding. It's our responsibility to make sure that we are monitoring these devices, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Some people disagree with me, but that's how I feel.
So when like you have a child that you're, as a patient, the parent basically has to become the patient too, because the parent has to be on your side. You're coaching this child, you're helping the child, and if you're the only one doing it and the parent's not doing their end, it's almost like good cop, good parent. You know what I'm saying? It's like like, it's like anything else. It takes work. It's a teamwork. Like, if someone's going to be diagnosed or be helped, it's an effort. As a parent, we have to take the effort to say, hey, you know what? This is the game plan. We have to go forward with this game plan. Like I said, my son was sick at one point in his life. He had cancer. And I remember going over the game plan with the doctor. And the biggest thing he told me was, Mike, you have to keep him positive. He goes, that's the main thing. He goes, you're going to be that guy for him. He goes, I'll handle the medical end. He goes, but you handle the positive stuff with him. Keep him busy. Act like he doesn't exist. Bring him out. Like keep him moving. And you know what? Knock on wood. He was 14. He's 29 now. And a kid. He was here 3 weeks ago. He watched filming. It was pretty cool, man. The first time, and he loved it.
God bless.
But it's kids are a big thing with me, and that's why I kept saying I want to talk about kids, because that's our future. When we get older, these are the people making our decisions in our life.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're going to be presidents, senators, lawyers, doctors, whatever. They're the ones that can be. We're going to be in their hands.
And
so it's a
these
big
kids
thing.
are so smart these days. Like, we were not that technologically inclined when we were younger, or when we were their age.
Yeah.
These kids are incredibly smart. We just have to gear, that intelligence in the right direction.
You see a little kid, a 1-year-old, pick up an iPad. I'm like, what the hell?
Amazing.
I can't turn it on. This little kid's like, beep, 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 beep.
Yeah.
Boom, Blue's Clues. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. But all right, let's see what else we got here. This is very interesting. I'm very intrigued with the mind. Anxiety. It is.
Yeah.
Do you see that at an early age?
Believe it or not, my youngest patient with anxiety right now is 4 years old.
And how do you diagnose a 4-year-old with anxiety?
So a lot of times it shows up with school refusal. Refusing to go to school, anxious about being with peers.
Yeah.
Anxious about speaking to people, being around people, eating in front of people. And we see this very, very early in children today.
Really?
This was not something that we were picking up back in the day this early. And it's very sad to see these children suffer. They really suffer.
Anxiety, so you say they won't eat in front of people. Is that part of it? Did that go hand in hand with the eating disorder?
Sometimes.
With the anxiety? Yeah.
Sometimes.
Wow. Now, what about adults' anxiety? Like what's anxiety for like an adult? Like, what's an adult version of an anxiety? Like, what would be some of the symptoms of someone with anxiety?
So adults exhibit anxiety when they worry too much about things they cannot control. They catastrophize everything. Everything will be a negative, like you mentioned.
Gloom and doom. Oh my God, it's going to rain tomorrow. There's going to be a flood. Noah's Ark's coming. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Okay.
These are the people that I often describe as, if you call them, they don't pick up the phone and say hello. They say, what happened? They constantly expect something bad to happen,
really,
either to them or to their loved ones.
Yeah.
They have self-esteem issues. They worry about not performing well at work.
Okay.
Or people not liking them, people talking about them, people looking at them and judging them. There's a lot of self-doubt.
So do you believe? All right. So now with the anxiety and self-doubt, now the gloom and doom. So 99% of people that gloom and doom, like, there's always something crazy going on in life, or there's always, like you say, you never hear anything positive. Like, it's always like the same routine. Now, do you think that's like a manifestation type thing? Like, they're bringing it upon themselves? Like, you believe in that?
You bring in a very interesting point, because what I do is based on science.
Okay.
But at the same time, I guess because of my European background, I do have a lot of superstitions that I follow, sort of that came along from childhood on to my adulthood that I was never able to shake. But I do see it in practice, actually. Yeah. And one of the things I always tell patients, like the doctor that you talked about with your son, positive thinking is incredibly important in treatment. If I have a patient who mentally is, has a lot of negative thinking, that this isn't going to work, this is all, not something that is for me, they set themselves up for negative results. And for me, it is that much more difficult to treat a patient like that and have a positive outcome, because they're not setting themselves up for good results. They're setting themselves up for bad results. Yeah. Just like when you're going into a test. If you constantly tell yourself and tell yourself out loud that you're going to fail, do you actually think you're going to have a positive outcome?
Yeah.
You're going to fail because that's what you're convincing yourself is going to happen. So I often say that to patients that are of such symptomatology, where I tell them, listen, I see a lot of negative talk. I need you to work on that. Otherwise, what I'm doing, you're fighting against me. You're fighting against me helping you. I want to help you, but I need you to work with me. Yeah. Otherwise, this is not going to work.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, we're all physically gifted in some way or form. So the only difference is, I think, is it's almost like who wants it more. Like we all wake up in the morning, we all have a routine. But my thing is, I think the guy who wakes up in the morning, or woman wakes up in the morning, who has the plan of not to fail, is the one that's going to make it. But if you just wake up in the morning and you're just going through the same routine, oh, I'm going to work. I got to go here. I got to go there. It's almost like, dude, like, come on, man. You're alive. You're breathing. There's someone who's not breathing right now that wish he had that shot. And when I get around people, I tell them, like, oh, what are you talking about? Your life is this. You're like, listen, homeboy, my life ain't what you think it is. And I've had my struggles, man. And I still have my struggles, but I try to look positive at everything. I always say there's a way out. There's always a way out. And it's sad because when someone, when I say about way out, because another thing I want to bring up is like suicide, because that's such a preventable thing sometimes. And I feel like we don't see the clues that people give us sometimes. And then after they're gone, the clues pop up. Like, damn, I remember that conversation. Damn, I remember this. I remember that. And then when they leave that note, or there is no note, like the closure, it's almost like we're left feeling guilty. They're gone, and it's such a sad thing, because some of these people, it was so preventable, like Robin Williams, right? Like, look at this guy. He was so happy to everybody, and then he killed himself. Yeah. Like, such a gifted mind, and sometimes I want to ask, like, a gifted mind like that, is his mind working totally different than ours?
Good point.
Right?
Listen, we could have a whole separate podcast on that. But I just want to mention something that you said that I think is very, very important to kind of stress on. Human nature is, the way we are wired is, we always think of ourselves as, we tend to feel sorry for ourselves. We think we have it worse. Nobody else has such a difficult life like me. It takes a conscious effort for someone to recognize positive things that are going on in their life, to say it out loud. I often tell patients, I want you to do an exercise. And every morning, when your brain tends to jump to the negative things that are happening in your life, I want you to make a conscious effort and put 10 bullet points of what's going on in your life positively, stand in front of the mirror and say it out loud.
Wow.
Because our nature is that we tend to be negative. And it's an effort that you consciously have to make not to be. Some are more than others.
Yeah.
But in general, the way the human mind works is, we always say, I have the worst job. I have the worst boss. Yeah. I have the worst relationship. I'm mistreated. My friends don't appreciate me. My parents were not there for me. This is how we tend to fall. We tend to fall into that type of thinking. And it's important for us to recognize it, to stop it, and to change it. Yeah. We have the choice. And these are some of the things that you brought up. Yeah. You make the choice. You decide what your life is going to be. If you're not happy with your life, then change it. Yeah. What are you doing to change it? As opposed to just complaining about it, right?
I agree. I say all the time, I bring up the Beetlejuice. I bring up Beetlejuice. You know why? Because you say Beetlejuice 3 times, Beetlejuice appears, right? Yeah. So I tell people all the time, if you keep saying something, it's going to happen. Correct. If you keep, I'm a big manifestation guy, and I keep saying, if you see it and you believe it, you can achieve it. I don't think there's anything we cannot do as human beings. Our mind is so strong, but I think we put limitations on it because, I can't, I won't. People say, I can't. It's not you can't. You don't want to. You don't want to try. Correct. It's all about trying. And I brought this up with a guy, Mike Munez. He was my first guest I had. He's a 67-year-old actor who started acting after his wife passed away. He was homeless. He had drug addiction. Now this guy is happiest guy in the world, man. That's why he was my first guy because he's always so happy and positive. And he's 67. So that's an age, that, you're looking to retire. This guy's putting the pedal to the metal at 67 years old.
Yeah.
And he's doing what he loves. He's acting. And his energy he brings, it's so unique. Like everyone that's here, when everyone met him, they're like, we love this guy. And the biggest thing, like the I can'ts, and people play the victim sometimes. And it's pretty sad because to play a victim and then people know you're playing the victim. So then when you want the real help that you need, people are like, oh, he's playing the victim again. It's very hard to differentiate. Like, is this really need help or is this another time they're playing the victim?
Right.
Did you see that a lot with people coming in like it's always someone else's fault and not theirs?
So I can tell you, talking about manifestation, I will have 10 patients who will say, I know I'm going to get fired.
Yeah. 9
of them will.
Do you think they help to get fired? They probably help it somehow.
I think, well, first of all, it's almost like if you have that type of attitude, right, and you don't have any confidence in the type of work you produce, these are not the type of employees bosses want to have.
Yeah, I agree.
They want somebody who is competent, knowledgeable, and confident. Because your performance depends on all of these qualities,
yes,
right?
Yes.
If you constantly tell yourself, I know nothing, I'm not good at my job, guess what your boss is going to think about you?
Yeah.
Nothing different.
Yeah.
You will rarely see a boss who will pull you to the side and say, listen, I really think you're amazing. I need you to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to do that.
Yeah.
A good teacher will, but not a boss.
Yeah.
So when you constantly exhibit this uncertainty about your qualities, your confidence, people pick up on it.
Yeah.
It's almost like a dog that can smell somebody's fear, right?
Energy.
And
it's energy. Yeah.
And the boss is going to be like, you know what? I don't need somebody on my team. They're dead weight that I'm carrying. I need competent, confident employees who will do the job and who are going to be confident in themselves. Yeah. You're better off being overly confident than not believing in yourself.
Yeah. Some people label it as cocky. There's some people that are very over the edge, cocky. Okay. But then there's some people, listen, I keep saying it sometimes, like when you walk in a room, you got to own a room. You have to own a room. You have to, even if you don't own a room, you got to act like you own a room. And if you act like you own a room, eventually you're going to own a room. And there's another thing we keep saying, listen, if you're in a room with 5 people and there's 4 millionaires, you're the 5th. Mm-hmm. You eventually be the 5th. You're in a room with 4 losers, guess who's going to be the 5th loser?
Correct.
That's why I keep saying circle of people we keep around and stuff like that. It's a big reflection of our lives and who we become. And I don't think growth stops at a certain age. I think you can grow and develop at any age. You can learn something new from everybody. And I feel like as adults, right? As kids, we dream. And as we become adults, we lose the dreams because we worry about bills, reality, life, sickness, or whatever. And we lose that dream as kids as we have. Like kids dream of being a baseball player, being, astronaut or whatever. And at any age, I don't think it's too late to even try anything anymore. Like, another thing I'll tell you, a funny guy I met this guy who was 70 years old one time, 70 years old. And I was doing finance in the car business, and he wrote in his application, he was a mechanic, and he put only 1 year. And I was like, hey, I forgot the guy's name. I said, hey, you only been doing it for a year. He goes, yeah, I just got out of school. I was like, just got out of school? For what? He goes, to be a mechanic. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, I went to school at 67 to be a mechanic. I'm like, no way. He goes, Mike, I went to school at 67. I says, hey, I want to be a mechanic. I always wanted to be a mechanic. And now the guy's a mechanic. He went to school.
Age is just a number.
Just a number. It's so weird. Like, you got to think it. You got to, if you feel old, you're going to be old. Yeah, yeah. Like you said, it's confidence. Like, you got to wake up in the mirror and say, I want to be this guy. I want to be this guy. Another time I tell you funny stories. I first started the car business. I was a young 24-year-old guy in the car business. And the general manager, I'm going to say his name was Tom Coppola. This guy took me under his wing and saw something in me. And I was a street kid from the streets. I was no type of salesman. I wasn't a finance guy, nothing. I was good with numbers and money. He pulled me to the side. He goes, hey, man, you have a career in this business and you're going to shine. I was like, yeah, I want to be like this guy, like this guy. He goes, no. Because what I want you to do is I want you to take a picture of a salesman, X, Y, and Z. He was the worst salesman we had. and he had a lot of issues. He goes, I want you to put that on your wall. I said, for what? He goes, because I want you to look at that and say, I don't want that to be my career. That's not the guy I want to be. I want to be better than that and better. And you know what? This guy pushed me. And you know what? I'm so grateful for him. And, you know, and he definitely put me on a different career choice. If it wasn't for him, I would have had a lot of, you know, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. I'd be sitting somewhere else and probably wouldn't be good where I was sitting.
Listen, people come into our lives for a reason.
100%. And it's not by accident.
Yeah.
You know, another guy I had, this guy named Stoner I had on here. He calls everything a chance relationship. You meet someone by chance. Like he met his wife at 5 o'clock in the morning, 30-something years ago in the city. Just, they ran into each other.
Wow.
And it's just like, hey, that's my wife now, 34 years. And she's in the medical field. She's a psychotherapist or something like that. But same thing. And he was an interesting, you know, he was definitely interesting too. But yeah, it's pretty wild. You know,
I've met, you know, patients who had a career change later on in life.
You did, right?
I did. I have therapists that I work with that are retired NYPD.
Oh, really?
Yes. I have a psychologist who I work with. He's a retired firefighter.
Wow.
So, and to me, it was always, you know, a little mesmerizing in terms of how different these fields are.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still working with people.
Yeah.
But going from something like law enforcement and talking to people and helping them better themselves is quite different when you're, you know, making 10 arrests a day versus, you know, helping somebody make their life better. You know what I mean? It's quite a, you know, a difference and very ironic way of looking at it. But yeah, I've come across people that have had, you know, went back to school in their 60s.
That intrigues me. Those are the people, you know what? Those are the type of people I want to be around. I tell people all the time, I like to be around good energy people. You know, you always have the people in your life where, you know, they call you like, oh, shit. You know, the phone is like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
You know, damn it. What? I got to pick it up. What? It's X, Y, and Z. Oh, okay. Hey, what's up? You know, you try to pick them up. You know, they're your friends no matter what, you know. But another thing here, let's look at this. What's another one we got here? Oh, substance abuse. How bad is substance abuse on the brain?
I mean, I'm like speechless when you ask me this question. I actually specialize in substance use. We don't say abuse anymore. It's not politically correct. I have a lot of patients that I'm treating with substance use issues. It's incredibly damaging to the brain, to the person's life choices that they make, and to their family. It's absolutely devastating. I've lost patients to substance use as well, which is very difficult as a provider to treat patients knowing that the rate of relapse is so high and there's such high, you know, potential for them overdosing and losing their life to this terrible disease. And
they lose basically everything. I've seen people that were here and just seen it. And just everything's gone. Yeah. And then when we're on top, we say, I can handle it. You know, I can do it. I've been doing it for years. I can handle it. Yeah. But then you look at their life for years, it's been, you know, and do you see that a lot? That people say, hey, I can handle it. You know, it's no big deal.
Well, people think, and this is, a lot of times it's cultural. In some cultures, it is believed that if you're able to use substances, whether it's alcohol or any other illicit substances, from painkillers to crack cocaine, if they're able to get themselves to work and complete their functions at work and then use on, you know, their free time, they think they don't have a problem. We call it functional substance users. But it doesn't mean you don't have a problem. But culturally, in some countries, it is believed just because you're able to function, you don't have an issue. You don't have an addiction issue. Yes.
Wow.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there are a lot of alcohol use with people who are functioning from day to day.
Yeah. It's funny. It's like you hear like different cultures with like drinking. Drinking is a big thing. So let's go to the Irish because I'm half Irish. So they say the Irish is born with beers in their hands and, you know, Russians with vodka. You know what I'm saying? Everyone's labeled what they got. Ukrainians. What is Ukrainian? Vodka?
Vodka.
Vodka, wow, okay. But it's so funny how,
Anything under the sun, in fact.
Is it? Yeah, it's pretty funny. But when you hear it, you like you said, in different cultures. That's what popped in my head: Irish beer, Russian vodka, and it's like you said. I did hear that before. If you can function, you're okay.
Correct.
But you're okay because you're working. But what about your social skills and your mental aspect of how you're dealing with people? Yeah, you're going to work. Yeah. But how are you dealing after work? How are you with your family? How are you moody? How are you handling your daily, situations? Right?
Well, not just that. What kind of medical compromise you bringing onto your body?
Really? Yeah.
Your stomach, your heart, your brain, everything.
And and sleeping is a big part of you being healthy. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Sleep hygiene is very important. People often underestimate the importance of getting adequate sleep. This is something that I do a lot of education with my patients, because they think, I don't need more than 2-3 hours of sleep. Yes, you do.
Holy crap.
Yes, you do. You can't function when you don't sleep.
You need sleep.
Correct.
You need it's part of treating your body, right?
Correct. It's just as important as food. It's just as important as water.
Yeah. So it's funny because I read stuff like Albert Einstein and all these guys. These guys would go to bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock, and then wake up at 4:30, 5 in the morning. Yeah. So lately, I've been trying to emulate that as much as possible. Because you know what? I want to end my day. I want to go to bed early, and I feel if I go to bed early and I wake up early, I get a jump start on everyone else in the morning. Mm-hmm. I try to ride my bicycle, and there's no one else around. I'm like, wow, this is perfect. I get a little alone time with the guy upstairs. I can say what I want. And maybe I'm the first one to get to him before everybody else does. Nice, because when I was a finance manager, I'd do the same thing. I would come to work early. Like if we open up at 9, I'd get to work at 8:15, and I would call the credit analyst. Hey, John. Hey, it's Mike from blah blah blah. Hey, I sent you a deal, man. Can you take a look at it again? Because I got him before everybody else got him with their problems. So I felt that if I was an early starter, I can get all my stuff out of the way and hopefully get a good reaction from him. Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's a very, very nice way of putting a routine together.
Yeah.
Going to sleep at a reasonable hour. Consistency is also very important. Yep. You shouldn't be going to sleep at 8 o'clock one day and then going to sleep at 12 o'clock the following day.
Yeah.
You got to kind of keep it around the same time.
So do you think routines help people develop, as a kid?
Yes.
Routines help. So the military kind of teaches you that in a certain way. Yeah. Wake up, eat breakfast, shave, start your day, go back, end. Do you think routines are good for people to have in their lives? Help them develop?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right?
It's so important. It's part of your mental health well-being. And again, I'm going to tell you, I do a lot of education when it comes to parents, educating their kids and putting these, kind of, I don't want to say house rules, but routines in place so the children follow.
Yeah.
Don't let them stay on the iPad until 2 o'clock in the morning. Of course, they're not going to be able to catch the bus at 6 o'clock, 6:30. Yeah. These kids are waking up early these days. The first period starts at 7:30. They have to get out and catch the bus at 6:30 or 6 o'clock. How are they supposed to do that if they are functioning off of 4 hours of sleep? Yeah. If they're not eating a nutritious meal, if they're constantly eating, for example, junk food or burgers and fries, when they're not getting their nutrients from vegetables and fruits. So routine is very important. Eating at the right hour. You shouldn't be eating at 12 o'clock like these kids are snacking these days when they're on their gadgets until midnight and past. So routine is very, very important. Structure and routine is very important part of someone's psychological development and their mental health well-being.
So now with a child too, right? So a child in a stable home as opposed to a child who's bouncing around. Big difference?
Yes.
It is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And give me more specifics.
Okay, so let's say you have a family, mother and dad, and the dad's having issues with work, and he's got to keep, the rent's due, he can't pay, so he's got to go to another place. Okay. Or another place. Now this kid's moving from one school to another school to another school to another school. The family's intact. Mom and dad are still there. But the kid is moving. Do you think that has a big impact?
It has an impact. I mean, think of somebody who has to change their whole surroundings, right? We are creatures of habit. So when you take someone out of their, familiar environment and put them in a new environment where they're now, I don't want to say forced, but a kind of push to adapt.
Yeah.
It's stress. It's very stressful. You have to make new friends. You have to get acquainted to new teachers, new routine, new surroundings, learn the ropes. Sometimes it's a different state. And, one of the things that always mesmerized me as somebody who grew up in another country is you go to another state, right? Same country, right?
I feel like it's a different country.
Same nationality, right? But the mentality of the people is so different, right? And sometimes it could be because it's a Republican state versus a Democratic state. But the mentality of the people, their lifestyle, their views on life is so different. So if you take somebody from New York, right? And that's one of the things I actually told my son when he was looking to go to school in a different state. I said to him, you have to be cognizant of the fact that people are going to have a completely different view on life. You grew up on Long Island, and our Long Island kids are quite different. And I don't want to say spoiled, but they do have a little bit of that, entitlement type of an attitude. We give them a lot. I think we're fortunate, and we give them a lot. So when they go somewhere to Alabama, where most children grew up not having access to the things that our kids have access to, it's a very different lifestyle. So to adapt to people with a completely different view and mentality on life could be stressful for someone who is of the age of 18, who still has not developed that self of strong identity.
It's funny because we're the United States. We're the biggest country in the world, right? So let's take Beverly Hills, right? Now you take someone from Beverly Hills and you put them in West Virginia. They're in a completely different world. And you take that guy from West Virginia, you put him in Beverly Hills, you're like, holy crap. It's you're right. It's a one country, but it's different worlds in our country. Because it's so big. It's like you're right. You got blue states, red states, and you got Beverly Hills, West Virginia. Like you think like, how could Beverly Hills be like this and then West Virginia like this? Like sometimes I jump on YouTube, I just said, let me just see, like, I'll just punch in poorest, state in the United States. And you look, I'm like, how do people live like this? Like it's so wild. Like I found this called, you ever see the family called the Whitakers? They're on YouTube. They're like an inbred family in West Virginia. And this photographer found them. And me being who I am, I get in my head and I had to do the research. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe these people live like this. But then you look at Beverly Hills and those people living like that. But it's a different country within our country. It's very wild. But I don't know. Anything else you want to touch on? I think we touched on a lot of things today, and
we certainly did.
You did great. You were a little nervous, but
I was a little nervous.
You flew right through it, man. You did excellent. You definitely taught us things we didn't know, and we're very appreciative. And we appreciate what you do. You have a very hard job, in the medical field that you do, and the pressure that falls on your shoulders. You have all of them on you. It's like all these different souls are hitting you at once with all these issues, and we appreciate it. We appreciate you professionals because you guys are helping us. You help us develop our children. And, your staff, if you want to tell us who your staff is on there.
So we have Amanda Amblo is our manager. Let me just pull up.
Chris, can you pull them up? Can you pull up the staff page? I guess it's about us, Chris, I think. Right?
So
there we go.
Amanda Amblo is our practice manager.
What's her details that she does? Like kind of office manager type?
So she oversees everything, all operations of the office, administrative operations of the entire office.
She's the
the
back. Got it.
She's my right hand.
Good.
I don't know where I would be without her.
That's awesome.
We have Dr. Mosen. And he's a psychiatrist. He's also specializes in substance use.
Wow. Okay.
We have Elisa Matei. who's our psych and P as well. We have myself. We have our biller, Lisa, also very important part of the practice because without
Part of the team.
yeah.
I keep saying every person plays a different piece on that team to make the team win.
yes,
Doesn't matter what position they play. It's a team effort. Okay.
absolutely. And we have 3 therapists that are working side by side with
Awesome.
us: Ariana, Christine, and Michaela.
Awesome.
We have an incredible team. We have a very good, tight relationship. We have, that professional understanding in terms of how we need to support each other to help our patients. Our priority is patients always.
Perfect. Yeah.
We are incredibly lucky to be working in this field. We take our job very seriously, and we are incredibly honored to be, part of these families' lives. And it's incredibly rewarding to be able to see the progress, the improvement, and how they better themselves when we, put a little bit of our.
I see that smile as you're saying it. Yeah, that's awesome. That's it's almost it's like you win when you see someone blossom. They come in one way and they leave another. It's like you know why you did it. You know why you got into the profession.
I take so much pride in what I do. My job is my life, and everybody who's a close family member of mine, I have an understanding with them that they are not to get upset at me over the amount of work I do and when I attend to my work. I attend to my work 24/7. That's the choice that I made in life, and it's an incredible honor, and I would not regret it for one second.
Wow.
I love what I do. It gives me an incredible gratification to help people every single day.
Well, we appreciate you being here, and we appreciate you telling us a story, and maybe this podcast will help somebody. And if they need help, you want to tell them where they can reach you and your webpage?
So you could either go to our website, which is southshorepsychiatry.com. You can find all the contact information from there. You can fill out a referral form. If you know someone who's in need of mental health and just needs a little bit of help of taking that step, because a lot of times patients are very hesitant to actually make the step towards helping themselves. Our phone number is 516-765-7799. You can call us. You mentioned a very interesting thing in the beginning of our conversation where human touch is very important. And I encourage my staff, even though we get a lot of referrals via email, via text, I always tell my staff, I need you to follow up with a phone call. It's very important for people to hear the voice. It's just a little more soothing. We try to make the process very... not complicated. It's a simple form that they complete. We schedule the appointment, and they'll meet with one of our providers where we decide together with the patient what type of care they need, what type of treatment is recommended, and how we're going to move forward. But we try and make it pretty simple. But phone call goes a long way. And I always tell my younger staff, because I guide them in terms of how the business operations take place. And I always tell them, follow the pattern and take a look at how far you get with a patient by touching the referral via voice versus touching the referral via the phone and text message. So the outcome could be, the patients feel a lot more at ease when they get to ask the questions and hear the voice. The good intention in the voice.
I agree. But Tatyana, it's been great to have you on the show. We appreciate it. Much success to you in your business. And like you said, we're grateful you came on, and hopefully this helps someone out if they need it. All right?
Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
having me.
You're welcome. Thank you.